Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's midday weather outlook for the southern region brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. We begin first by just taking a look at what we got over the last 24 hours, and the flow pattern is really set up for us quite well here. Again, we've been talking about this for a long time now, but our upper level ridge is still sitting over the Four Corner states, and the flow around has brought a lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms to parts of Arizona and Mexico. Meanwhile, the same pattern has really kept much of Texas very, very dry, as well as Oklahoma as well. And we had some widely scattered storms that did move through parts of the panhandles and then right into central Texas. But outside of that, much of the action was focused down here in the Gulf of Mexico, right along the shore. We did have that lingering boundary that was still sitting here on and around. We did see quite a bit of thunderstorms, and some of them hitting some regions here in North Carolina that have been exceptionally dry, especially when you get down into this particular corridor of North Carolina and parts of South Carolina, having one of their drier summers now. And across Florida, you're going to see here in a few minutes, we've had a lot of thunderstorm activity. Just to let you know, because of the corn and soybean farmers you do have in the southern region, we talked about in the video yesterday how this particular pocket was extremely dry. We did get some rainfall into that area, but you'll notice the rainfall amounts were rather light. So we're waiting on more to really help relieve some of the drought in that area. So if you're a corn and soybean farmer in the southern region, be paying attention to in this forecast also what you're seeing here up in the heart of the Corn Belt, as it will be quite impactful in the coming days here. Our pattern just is stuck. I mean, look at this. There's that same thing we talked about yesterday, big ridge sitting here. And so this is kind of a wash, rinse, repeat kind of day for us when it comes to this forecast. So to put this into context, last 14 days, percent of normal precipitation. As the monsoon has gotten going, we can see some local pockets of very heavy rainfall, but due to that upper level flow, we've had very dry conditions stretching from parts of central Texas into western Oklahoma and western Kansas. Meanwhile, over the last week, we saw two bands of extremely heavy rainfall. First one going right in through here into parts of eastern Kansas, some locations getting over 10 inches of rain, and then a second band that went right in through here more recently that produced incredibly heavy rain as well. Outside of that, it's really been a lot of heavy rain in Louisiana, and then pockets, just a lot of daytime thunderstorm activity. So pockets of heavier rain in the southeast, getting over into parts of eastern Texas and western North Carolina, a little bit heavier rain. But the Florida sea breeze has been going, and we've seen daily convective activity there, so it's been quite wet in the southern half of Florida. So that just gives us some perspective on the last 14 days. So let's take that and try to figure out where we are going in the near term. So I have today's forecast map over here on the left from NOAA, and I have the one on the right here. That is going to be for tomorrow. And we're watching some very subtle features. That's why I'm showing you this. First, we still actually have this lingering boundary hanging out right in through here, which means that everywhere you're kind of seeing this shading in through here, we are looking out for more showers and thunderstorms today. But we'll need to be watching the position of this front. As you can see that by tomorrow, it slides a little bit farther into the mid-south here, bringing in some greater risk of showers and thunderstorms. Storm Prediction Center is not watching anything across the southern region in terms of major severe weather risk. So a lot of these showers and storms, their main threat will be brief gusty winds and some very heavy rainfall as they come through. But you're going to notice in this forecast, it's going to be a tricky one, but you're going to notice that much of the southeast over the next 2 weeks, you're just going to see a daily probability of having rainfall between 20 and 50%. There's no major features coming through, including coming out of the tropics, that's going to change that. And so it's just going to be daily thunderstorm activity. To show it, here is the high resolution NAM. We started this Tuesday morning. It's going to go through Wednesday afternoon right about here and into Thursday morning through there. Okay, and as we notice in this forecast, you can see over the southeast, storms do try to pop. The main frontal boundary does try to go through parts of Kentucky and Tennessee early. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. Just pauses to get a better view. So this is now this afternoon. This is Tuesday afternoon. You can see the main frontal boundary moving through southern Illinois, coming into Tennessee, Kentucky, giving them a decent chance for storms this evening. Outside of that, across much of the rest of the southeast, it's going to be very widely scattered hit or miss thunderstorms. Okay, Texas, we're still under the heat. We're still too close to the ridge out west, and therefore things stay relatively dry. Now, in the overnight hours tonight into tomorrow, I want to watch a cluster of storms that is going through Kansas there and then moves into Missouri and Arkansas. Okay, because that's going to be maybe the first round at some decent rain that comes through this particular corridor right in through here. And again, this is a place that has recently seen some heavy rainfall. So notice what I mean here. Late in the afternoon on Wednesday, okay, We're going to watch again for widely scattered showers and storms on the next front that comes through this area. It's a weak cold front. It's not going to be bringing in much cold air. And that brings in widely scattered storms in through this area. We need to watch out for squall line development. But then watch back over here again. This is now Thursday night, getting into the overnight hours. Now, we study these types of storm systems. There was a huge project a few years ago called Pecan, and the reason why they called it that was because they were studying nocturnally elevated thunderstorms. So overnight elevated squall lines of storms, and that's exactly what these look like here coming through Kansas into the early morning hours on Thursday. So that corridor right in through there could be very wet again as we move into the end of our week here. And I got you out to Thursday morning. So that's just a high resolution view of what some of these storms look like in the near term. Switching over to our European model, let's just go ahead and click play on this, and let's pause it right about Wednesday afternoon. So again, a lot of our thunderstorm activity Wednesday is going to be right down here along the coast and in Florida. As we go into Wednesday night and into Thursday morning, remember we saw some kind of preliminary showers and storms in through this area. It's going to be, I think, a relatively drier day on Thursday for much of the southeast. Texas, we're dry a lot through this pattern. But then we're going to be watching again Thursday night into Friday morning for that complex of thunderstorms to roll right through this area. Now, what's going on is it's kind of forming on the end of a frontal boundary that's stretched clear up into the northeast, wrapping itself around this low. So it's right in through here. So Tennessee, Kentucky, you may also be getting some showers and storms out of this. Taking you out through Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and into Saturday morning. Those storms will be spreading toward the southeast on those days, but it may look as though Saturday, a lot of the people over here in the southeast getting up into the Carolinas may have a decent Saturday, while we're still watching a band of heavier rainfall that may stretch from Missouri down here into parts of Mississippi and Alabama. And I say heavy, it's going to be widely scattered showers and storms. Let me just go ahead and show you what's going on into next week. So this was Saturday. Let's go on out to Sunday. And there's Sunday. Get you out into Monday. What we're waiting on as we get into next week is what's going to be happening up in Canada. We're going to be watching for a storm track still hugging the southern border of Canada. And as it does so, it's going to continue to drag frontal boundaries that just keep going here across the southeast. Now, what we see here in this pattern is that it's really more about that Canadian storm track, that northwest flow, than anything coming out of the tropics. Maybe that's a bit more evident when you take a look here at the week 2 precipitation forecast. So I've got the European model over here and I got the GFS over here, and these are ensembles. Now, what do we see? We overall see that this quarter in the European model is kept wet, wetter than average. And one of the big reasons for that is due to the lingering boundaries of each of these systems that come through and then sit over here. They just drape a front right in through this area, and it hangs around, and on that front we get a lot of thunderstorms. The European model often does a much better job with picking up on thunderstorms which source their moisture from the Gulf of Mexico right there along the coast, because it is a coupled model, which means it couples the atmospheric flow with the oceanic flow. The GFS does not do that, which is why you tend to see it picking up on a drier pattern in through here. So I'm tending to favor the European model in this particular case because of those differences. Also, since we talked about it earlier, Western Corn Belt looks as though it's going to have a better chance of staying wet, although the GFS wants to bring that rainfall further into the Eastern Corn Belt, and that's important for you corn and soybean farmers in the southern region to be paying attention to. Now, what about the flow of the atmosphere? Well, I've got in every one of these next 3 pages here, I've got the European on the left and the GFS on the right. And overall, we've got good agreement, and that agreement is trough in the northwest, trough in the northeast, and ridge here. So the heat will be on for Texas, and you can see both models agree with that as we progress through the next 5 days. Getting you out to day 10 here, let's see what the flow pattern is doing. Still a broader ridge sitting in this area, but with this kind of flow, cooler weather will be pushing into parts of the northern part of the southern region. But if you were in the southern part of the southern region, in other words, this area right in through here, the heat does stay on. Now look at the difference in amplitude when you come over here to the GFS. Much bigger ridge still sitting in this area, which means, according to the GFS, a lot higher temperatures in through Texas, New Mexico, and Oklahoma. We'll see those in just a few seconds. And now to day 15, this is where maybe the changes are a bit more substantial. And this might also be part of the reason why the GFS is drier. The GFS wants to have a broader ridge feature that's over here, and if that's the case, that would be a drier pattern, while the European model is trying to keep that ridge a little bit farther back into this area. Both of them are raising heights here over the northeast, which would suggest we're lifting this pattern out into the northeast. That would tend to help actually bring in more Gulf moisture into this area. But I think the European model is the one that's got the better handle on the overall pattern, getting you out here to the 20th. It's the 20th and 21st of August. So we're way out here in the forecast, all right? Okay, watch these temperatures. We're going to start this off in the day on Tuesday. Texas, we are under the gun. We see here a lot of triple-digit heat in Texas and a lot of low to mid-90s stretching across the rest of the southern region. As we then get into Wednesday, watch temperatures in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas screaming there, scorching as well, up into the lower 100s, while we bring in mid to upper 90s across much of the rest of the southern region here. So this is a warm next few days. Thursday, same deal. Look at the heat that's in this part of the country. Very, very warm. Friday, same story. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I mean, it's just on. In fact, if I just play this back and forth, you don't see much of a change in the overall pattern for the southern region as I take you out through the next week. Because of that, take a look at these evapotranspiration rates. Down there in parts of Texas, we are expecting evapotranspiration rates over the next week to exceed 2.5 to 3 inches overall. And so this is a very hot and dry time period for Texas, Oklahoma, parts of New Mexico coming up here. So be prepared for those high evapotranspiration rates. Taking you out to day 10, we just notice again the heat stays on. Even out to day 15, remember that when that ridge is really in the European model much farther back here, well, you can see the above average temperatures stretching all across Southern California, clear over to Texas. So Texas, we're hot for a while. And you can see now starting to see the heights build over here in the northeast, helping to keep those temperatures coming back up. So Texas, get ready. It is going to be a hot and dry next 10 to 15 days overall. Finally, I just want to show you some new long-range outlook. We've got, this came out just early this morning. This takes us out to the very end of the month. So here we are now, the last week of August, and we see again that this particular finish to the month right now from the latest European model can't get rid of that ridge, and it's again trying to build heights here as they fall across this part of Canada. So it looks like we may have a warm end to our August across much of the United States based on the latest long-range European forecast. I want to finish with one last figure here. We talked in detail yesterday in the update about why the Atlantic is kind of shut down right now. Some upper-level support has gone missing, and we can see that over the next 15 days, and I mean, this takes us through a big chunk of August, the European model keeps the whole corridor right in through here dry. See that? And that drier pattern in through that particular area tells us that the European model is not picking up on any major waves coming off of Africa that stand a really good chance at becoming a powerful tropical cyclone. What do we have, though? This quarter right in through here is wet, and part of that's due to the flow around the subtropical high, and part of that's due to these systems that keep leaving a lingering boundary from the Canadian Maritimes all the way back there off the U.S. East Coast. I want to point out one last thing on this. You can see that over the next 15 days, that quarter, remember we kept highlighting it, has a better chance at staying wetter than average over the entire time period. So keep a close eye on that, all right? We'll go and wrap it up right here. We at Nutrien Ag Solutions, thank you for your attention. Hope you look forward to all of our forecast videos coming out this week at my.nutrienagsolutions.com. Talk to you again soon. Thank you.